Oh, thank you. Sleepy. Come back in an hour. Need sleepy. Please go away. Let me sleep for the love of God!
It's now time for the Billy C. Morning Show, part of the Billy C. Boxing Network. Interact with the show at BillyCBoxing.com.
Good morning, everybody. We're coming to you live from the Billy C. Studios in Lake George, New York. I'm Bill Calogero, and it's time for the Billy C. Morning Show. Good morning to all. Special shout out to all of our listeners on ESPN New Hampshire. Glad to be with you this morning, and we're glad to have you with us this morning. I also want to give you a special shout out to all of our viewers on Fight TV. Don't forget you can download and watch our show in your handheld app. Just visit fight.tv. That's FITE.TV/Billy C. And you will be able to download the app for free and enjoy all of the programming on Fight TV for free. So just go to fight.tv/Billy C. Today's show is being brought to us in part by Sal's Neighborhood Pizzeria and Italian Restaurant located in beautiful St. Simons Island, Georgia. Check out the website, www.salsneighborhoodpizzeria.com, and find out why we're always talking and bragging about the food at Sal's. And don't forget, if you're a snowbird heading south for the winter, it's literally a 15-minute out-of-your-way drive off of I-95. That includes stopping for a couple of lights. So if, you run the red lights, you'll get there even quicker. Find out why I'm always bragging about the food at Sal's, and I guarantee you it'll be a regular stop. And we'll throw you a free cannoli, too. Mention this show, and with any of your meal, whatever meal you guys get, Sal will comp you a cannoli. And they are the best. It's my favorite. www.salsneighborhoodpizzeria.com, or give my man a call, 912-268-2328, 912-268-2328. Today's show is also being brought to us in part by Fire Fan. You hear about all these new it's a game, I guess, but where you pick and do the teams, where you have your fantasy leagues and all of this stuff. Well, check this out. Fire Fan is a new, unique game that you can play along. It's for every sport, and get on board now. If you go to our website, www.BillyCBoxing.com, you'll see a banner on the left-hand side that says Fire Fan. Click it and sign up for your account today. Now, if you sign up via our banner, it's for free, and you can play for free. But here's the best part. You can win money. So you invest nothing and get money back in return. Fire Fan. Visit our website and click on the banner on the left-hand side. Today's show is also being brought to us in part by the Title Bout Championship computer game, and they will be sponsoring our Blast from the Past this week, which features former multi-divisional world champion and boxing Hall of Famer Tommy the Hitman Hearns. And finally, today's show is being brought to us in part by my book, Tom Molyneux, From Bondage to Baddest Man on the Planet, can be purchased. It's available. Yeah. That's a better choice of words. It's available where all good books are sold, and you can literally get a copy of it right now by visiting BarnesandNoble.com or Amazon.com. The big fight is coming up this weekend. Sergey Kovalev against Andre Ward, one of the most significant fights in the division, of course, and then some. It's a highly anticipated matchup, and I'm curious to know, who do you think is going to win the fight and how? Who do you think is going to win the fight and how? Drop me an email, Billy@TalkinBoxing. That's TalkinBoxing.com. We'll read your thoughts on the air, or feel free to give us a call on Friday when we do Fan Driven Friday. But joining me right now, I want to get his thoughts as we begin to break down, as we draw closer and closer to the big fight. My man, he's a New Jersey Boxing Hall of Famer. He is a Guinness Book of World Record holder. He's a downright nice guy, and he's my main man. Please welcome, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, Sal Rocky Senola. What's up, Sal?
Good morning, Bill. How are you, buddy?
Not too bad, my man. Not too bad. Better than my package. You know, I was supposed to get. No, not that package. I was supposed to get a package delivered to me, and I'm checking on the stuff, right? And it says, "Oh, it's been delivered. It was left at your front door." Well, guess what, Sal? Wasn't left at my front door, you know, and it's like, what, you know, and they make you jump through hoops. Well, we got to check. Did you look around your property? Did you look at your neighbor's house? Oh, yeah, I'm going to search the world for my package that's supposed to be delivered to my door. What's up with this crap, man?
Holy smoke. It looks like the United States Postal Service is having a little bit of a faux pas in the middle.
Well, listen, it's not even them. Let's blame who's blame. It's FedEx, those jabronis at FedEx.
You know, I don't want to say anything bad, but
say it.
I
say it.
UPS, more times than not, UPS never disappointed me. FedEx has.
All the time. FedEx is overpriced. It's like when you absolutely positively got to get there something. Wait, no. If you
and I know there's been those times.
Yeah. No, if you absolutely positively got to get that package there, don't use FedEx. You know, I mean, come on. But anyway, my delivery is somewhere. Somebody might be benefiting from it that I already paid for, which really pisses me off. But anyway, let's get back to boxing. Sergey Kovalev, Andre Ward, the big fight. We've been anticipating this fight for a long time. We actually had to sit through a couple of preliminary shake off the ring rust fights to lead up to this, and it's finally here this weekend. What's your thoughts, man? I know we're going to get your final thoughts later in the week, but what's your thoughts as we draw closer to this fight?
You know, I've really, I'm trying to envision this fight, and I see it being a very good fight. You know, it could be one of two. You know, you're going to have Andre Ward coming out there and waiting and seeing, but I think these guys know what it's about. I think they're very much set on trying to each be a dominant figure in the ring, and I think that's ultimately also going to be Andre Ward's shortcoming, because I think he's going to think he is a puncher, and he's going to try and get in there and land a little bit on Kovalev, and I think Kovalev's going to have a real rock hard answer for him. And Andre Ward's a great talent. Believe me, don't get me wrong. I just feel that Kovalev is going to have some heavy arsenal of punches that's going to be waiting for him to come in.
So you think he's going to try to go? You think Ward's going to try to be mano a mano and go toe to toe?
Well,
with Kovalev?
I think that would definitely surprise Kovalev and a lot of people. I think he's going to first choose to see how he can move around the first round and box him from the outside. But I think ultimately when he tries to get inside with some hard punches, because he's not going to be as effective on the outside, I think that's when Kovalev's going to have his chance to get him. But I see it being a good, clean, good fight, and I think it's gonna be something that Kovalev's going to have his hand raised in the end.
You know, it's funny. You know, you can't really judge how fighters act, and especially in front of cameras and the press and stuff like that. But my initial
we do all the time.
No, I know, I know. I mean, how they act, you can't judge how the fight's going to be based on how they act, is what I meant. And yesterday, the grand arrivals, so to speak, took place. Ward arriving in Vegas as well as Kovalev, and just by the photos and video footage I've seen and some of the quick comments made by both fighters, you know, I sense this with Andre Ward. I sense this confidence, this overconfidence, like almost like he believes that he's already the best fighter out there. And although he's had a extremely tough career in terms of level of opposition and stuff, which he really has. I mean, he fought everybody who's anybody in the division, but that was several years ago. And you know as well as anyone, Sal, that boxers, any athlete, time is the biggest enemy, and he's got this confidence about him that could be dangerous. You know, I remember watching Evander Holyfield walk out to fight Mike Tyson, and he had this overconfidence, and it made me nervous. It was different. It was a different confidence than what I'm seeing with Andre Ward. It was the kind of confidence that I said, oh, man, Evander Holyfield's looking like he knows something the rest of us don't. But Andre Ward has almost got this cocky confidence. And Sergey Kovalev, he looks like he's ready to take care of business. I don't know. I mean, what do you get out of that?
Well, it's so funny you should ask, because when you're in the middle of your career and you sustain that level of competition, your mindset, your whole body, your mind, your heart, you are focused on the game of boxing in your life. And when you have these long interruptions of time, part of training and part of fighting is also mental. And you can, some of us, and I'm one of them, that have a light switch. We could turn it on, and it's like yesterday was our last fight. Others, they have to relive and become part, surround themselves and become back into the mix of things and gel of things. And I think Andre Ward thinks he's that type of guy that could turn it on and off, and maybe he is. He is so accomplished. We know that, and he has fought some tough competition to be where he is. After all, that's your saying. Wherever you're going to be, you are, something like that.
That's not what I
but
say,
anyway,
Slip. That's not what I say, Slip. I
Okay,
say wherever you go, there you are. That's the line.
There you go. I got to write that down and learn that one.
Yeah, I think.
But anyway, seriously, I think Andre Ward is a great fighter. I just think with these long interruptions in his career, has he been able to sustain the momentum and the continuity that he needs to eat, drink, live, and sleep boxing? And can he sum that all and have his presence in a ring ready to go? Or is it going to be like, oh, jeez, well, let's see. I'm going to be in with this opponent. I think he knows what he's doing. I think he's going to go in there. I just think maybe it was his over cockiness, if that's what you detected from him. I think that may lead to him making a subtle mistake. And we say all the time, every fighter has a plan until they get hit. And, but again, you're looking at two experienced fighters. They've been down the path. I just feel in my heart of hearts that I think Kovalev is going to not back down, and he's going to be in the pocket waiting. And if Andre Ward thinks he is this puncher all of a sudden, he tries to trade, I think Kovalev's going to be there and have an answer for him. And but Andre's best bet is staying on the outside, looking for opportunities, moving in when he can, and trying to box and move around Kovalev. That's his best bet. But like I said, if he makes a mistake and thinks he's going to be punching like Tommy Hearns did with Hagler, you might see. In fact, I see these guys almost like a Tommy Hearns and Hagler.
Well,
on a bigger note.
I don't know. I agree with you because I've said it myself. I think that Andre Ward all of a sudden thinks he's a power puncher, and he's fighting that way. But I think it's a critical mistake if he tries to match power with Kovalev. I don't think he's going to do it. I think he is going to try to use his movement. He's got great movement. I think he's going to try to use that, establish his jab, and try to frustrate Kovalev. I've said it all along. I am picking Kovalev to win this fight, but the pressure's on Kovalev, and the reason why I say that is because I feel that Sergey Kovalev must control the ring. He must not let Andre Ward, lead him around, so to speak. If Kovalev is following him around like a puppy dog, like you mentioned the other day, then this fight is going to be a boring fight. It's going to be similar to a Mayweather type fight where you got one guy picking his shots, 1 or 2 and running, and 1 and 2 and running, and at the end of the 12 rounds of running and chasing, we're going to have a decision, and it's going to be a anticlimactic fight. I hope that doesn't happen. The only thing that I see that may waver that game plan a bit is the fact that Andre Ward's knees. He does have some issues with the knees, and maybe he can't sustain productive movement for 12 full rounds. He's going to have to be able to not move at some point. I think the pressure is going to be on Sergey Kovalev to take advantage of that.
Yep. Like I said, if I was to analogize and see what this fight might look like on paper with these guys, with their talents and their level and how they fight, you're either going to see a Duran Leonard 1 or 2, or you're going to see a Hearns Hagler. Who knows?
There's another Sal word, analogize. Wonder if that's a real word. Analyze, analyst,
Look it up.
analytical,
Look it up,
analyze.
No, that's angelic.
I don't know, man.
Angelic.
I
Let's
don't-
say angelic a
I
lot.
don't-
Forget
I don't know.
about it. Don't go to
I don't know
dictionary.
about that one.
Kids,
but
don't try this at
don't
home.
try that at home. Hey,
Don't
listen.
try this in public.
Before I take a break, and we got some emails to read, and I got a pretty confusing WBC ruling. But did you catch this? And Coach brought it to my attention. But our buddy, man, Boom Boom Mancini, they've named a bourbon whiskey after him in Youngstown. Apparently, a small micro brewery called Candela Micro Distillery in Ohio, in Boardman, Ohio, has come out with a whiskey called Boom Boom Bourbon. And it's according to the owner, Bill Candela. He says it's a little thing to show Boom Boom Mancini. We appreciate him for what he did and the fact that he got into the Hall of Fame. And that's not something everybody can do. It's also a way for him to give back to this valley. The Kentucky bourbon is blended and bottled at the Candela Micro Distillery in Boardman, Ohio. Depending upon how this goes with the Boom Boom bourbon, there could be more products down the road. Right now, there's only a limited production of 1,200 bottles of Boom Boom bourbon at a cost of $46 a bottle. Boom Boom said, I hadn't drank bourbon in years. Back in the day when I was fighting, after a fight, you drink a bourbon because it's a drink of success. It's a drink of sophistication, so I enjoy that. I love the people of Youngstown and appreciate the fact that they took a shot on me, and I'm going to take the ride with them. Drink of sophistication. I tell you what, I've seen a lot of people after drinking a little too much bourbon, and the last thing I would say is that they look a little sophisticated. I've seen, let's just say, not sophisticated looking people after a couple of too many bourbons, Sal.
I'm going to bring it in my restaurant. And I'm going to put it right by the picture of Boom Boom Mancini and myself. We'll put it right there. Toast of bourbon. It's also good marketing, so we'll see what they do with it.
Yeah, there you go. Hey, maybe it's something we should think of for Sal Rocky Senola.
I think so. Although I was a Scotch drinker, I grew up with Scotch. My father had an answer with Scotch was always in the household. He loved Dewar's, and we never had Ambisol. We were teething and we were kids. We had Scotch rubbed on our gums.
Yeah, thanks.
Could explain a lot.
Thanks for promoting, Scotch again for free. I drink Scotch every night, and I never mention the brand. But thanks. In one quick second, you promote it, and
I keep forgetting,
I
man.
appreciate that.
That's why he called me Slip.
Yeah, no wonder why they're coming to shut my electricity off. I can't collect any dollars from sponsors because you give it all for free. Hey, with that's a good segue. Let's take a break. We'll be back in 2. I got some emails to read. We got some more news to talk about, and then some. We'll be back in 2.
I need a drink.
The Billy C. Morning Show will be right back.
Hey, fight fans, check out KOFantasyBoxing.com. KO Fantasy Boxing is boxing's only trademarked fantasy game. Check it out, www.KOFantasyBoxing.com. Select your own gym, your own fighters, track them through a season that can last from 3 months to a year, depending upon which league you join. You got to check this out, man. www.KOFantasyBoxing.com. Join it today. Again, www.KOFantasyBoxing.com, and tell them Billy C sent ya.
Check out BillyCBoxing.com now, or feel the wrath of the mighty mustache.
Oh, that hurts. Why are you doing that to my face? I hate you.
That's BillyCBoxing.com. Consider this your warning.
Now, back to the Billy C. Morning Show. Interact with the show at BillyCBoxing.com.
And we're back. You're listening to the Billy C. Morning Show. Don't forget about Fight TV. Download it on your handheld. Just go to fight.tv. That's FITE.tv/Billy C. And you'll get it for free. Wow, that's a lot of rhymes going in there. Joining me right now is my man Sal Rocky Senola. And Sal, we got let's read a couple of emails here. I got one from my man Jesse. He says, Hey, Billy, I disagree of the fight with Antonio Orozco against Fidel Maldonado because Fidel has not done much of late, but he's strong. Antonio needs to pick a guy like Charles Maniucci, Sammy Vasquez, or Felix Diaz. Antonio is 29 years old. He's not getting any younger, and he needs to step up and challenge top relevant guys. We know the blueprint today, thanks to Floyd Mayweather. Nobody wants to fight anybody, so does it really shock you, Jess? He says, I don't think Keith Thurman thinks he's a pound-for-pound fighter. Now, this is in response to what I had said. Keith Thurman does think he's a pound-for-pound fighter. If you read his open letter to boxing fans, he thinks he's a top pound-for-pound fighter, and he says he has millions of people watching him every time he fights. So I think somebody needs to whisper in his ear that that's not exactly true. But anyway, he says, I don't think Keith Thurman thinks he's a pound-for-pound fighter, but he is looking for the big names in the sport, something Danny Garcia is not looking to do. He did mention that he wanted to be the undisputed welterweight world champion. I think if he does pursue that, Sal, I think that would be something that he could pound his chest about, because that is something that fighters don't seem to really pursue anymore. They get their belt and then they discredit any other champion that's in the same weight class and try to do their own thing. What do you think?
Yeah, I think you're right. I mean, I love when I see fighters seeking out to fight the best competition and anybody in their way. And I mean, that's the way it should be. I mean, you want to put the silence on all those people that think they're not the best and they're up on top. Hey, give me any challenger I can face. And, we go back. That's why Triple G has so many critics, because nobody really wants to fight him on his level term of 160 pounds. That's for middleweight. And they look to taint his ability, which he's the one looking to clean up anybody that's in his path.
True. He says, do you see Spence Jr. against Kell Brook happening? He says, I read Brook wants to fight, but he's also looking at other options. If they do fight, do you think the winner should face the Thurman Garcia winner or Terrence Crawford? First of all, I don't criticize Kell Brook for looking at other options. I mean, he's a guy that went after the aforementioned that you just mentioned, Triple G. Nobody else wants to fight him, and Kell Brook did. So, and I personally think that Kell Brook is arguably the best welterweight out there if he fights at welter again, which he says he's gonna. I also think you could make a case that he could be the best junior middleweight out there. I think Kell Brook is one of the best fighters out there. I mean, I think he's pound for pound consideration, top 10. As far as him looking for other options, I don't have a problem with that. I mean, good, let him. As far as Spence Jr., that's a good fight. And I would love to see the winner fight the winner of Keith Thurman or Danny Garcia. As far as Crawford is concerned, he's on a welterweight. Again, Crawford has already moved up to junior welterweight. Why are we forcing this guy to move up? Why do they do that now, Sal? I mean, yes, I know it's a natural progression as a fighter ages, because the body just can't make the lower weights anymore. But it just seems like the move today is, you win a fight at one class or you win a belt at one weight class, and then immediately everybody wants you to move up. I mean, what do you think?
It's so funny you should say that, because we, growing up in my generation, everything else, all eyes, it looked like the notoriety and the big money and all the fame and everything was a heavyweight division. I grew up trying to be a heavyweight. When I realized I wasn't going to be a heavyweight, I said, whoa, I gotta see what's around here. And when you're a lightweight, the money comes, and if you're a champion, but the middleweight is more alluring because there's more money there. It's that mentality and mindset of generations earlier. But here, I think a lot of these so-called weight class jumps are also initiated by a lot of the fans or a lot of the people in the fight game. I mean, if a guy's fighting comfortably at junior welterweight or welterweight, because there's maybe no other opposition for him, let's not automatically assume he's ready to go up there and face a 160-pounder. Maybe his natural ability or fight, it might be just welterweight, and that's where he's best. And fighters should stay where he is best suited. Unless there are those, I guess, opportunities and conditions where he feels he wants to step up. But that's why the whole world of catch weights and everything else came into play. It's weird.
Right, and the thing is if they can't make the weight, they can't make the weight. But just
But
to
don't
move
force
up,
a guy to go up 20 pounds or 10 pounds because it's going to be a good fight.
or just two names. I don't know. But anyway, we've got another email. This is Angel from Madison, Wisconsin. He says, I would like to get your opinion and Sal's on college athletes getting paid. I'm in favor of a system that could provide pay incentives. I just think that college sports is a billion-dollar industry, and even though a college scholarship can be provided for the student athlete, that same athlete is providing an investment to the school with no return. I think we are bound to get to the point where athletes will get together and push this issue further because it's already an issue with the NCAA is dealing with. I think the NCAA would have to work out the big school and small ones as far as revenue is shared or negotiated, and more likely like a collective bargaining agreement would have to ensue. If the NCAA does not, if the NCAA does not, I see possible lawsuits on behalf of the players that are already taken fold. What's your thoughts? For me, I'm okay with some sort of compensation. How it should be provided, I'm not sure. What's your guys' thoughts? As far as my thoughts, Sal, I don't think they should pay to college athletes. If they're paying college athletes, it becomes professional sport.
And they're pros. Exactly. I could see maybe some sponsorship for footwear. No,
I mean, listen, they find ways of slipping them things as it is. But I think that Angel, just blew past the main issue here. What they're getting is the education. They're getting the scholarship, and in a lot of cases, they're getting a piece of paper, and they don't even make these guys go to all the classes. I think that the value in the college degree, be as it may, the guys that move on to professional sports and make millions of dollars, obviously the degree isn't going to help it. Just like a commercial, if anybody watches college sports, you see the commercials all the time. All these college athletes, only a fraction of them make the pros. The rest of them become pros in their field. So I think that the education is well worth it. The ratio of college athletes that make it to the professional level is very small compared to the amount of athletes that compete. And if they're getting an education, which incidentally runs into lots and lots of money a year, I think that's good compensation. What do you think?
Well, and that's the driver for a lot of these young athletes to excel too. I remember, wrestling in high school, it was paramount. My father was, Sal, you're going to get a scholarship. You got to get a scholarship. And, and I wrestled, went to state championships wrestling and undefeated my senior year in dual meets. And I did get some scholarships, and I could have gone to some nice colleges to wrestle. But I chose to go in the Army and box for the Army boxing team. But the bottom line is, yes, college is a great platform. We know that super athletes can be developed and cultivate their talents. And, you said it earlier, when you're given a scholarship and you're getting a full ride or getting some things paid for, schools, books, housing, everything else, you're still an amateur athlete. So you're still getting compensated, but it's just not a form of dollars in your hand. So I think that's a fair enough system while you're an amateur athlete. And if you do blossom to become a professional, then the bidding starts, then the other things come in, and then the other perks come in, and that's when monetarily you should be compensated when you do turn professional. I think that's a fair statement. You made a good point with the scholarship monies, because that is compensation.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's crazy. Hey, listen, before we let you go, I wanted to give you your quick thoughts. The WBC ruled the other day. Apparently, they got the fight that's going on between Berman Stavern is going to be fighting Alexander Povetkin. Now, if you remember, Povetkin was a guy that they had tested positive for something, and then he lost his shot at Deontay Wilder, and now all of a sudden they realize they made a mistake, so they're making him fight another fight, which he had already fought and earned his shot at Deontay Wilder, but because they're protecting Wilder because he's not very talented. The truth of the matter is now all of a sudden the WBC finds when they tested Berman Stavern on November 4th, he tested positive which I'm not going to even try to pronounce the dietary supplement that that he tested positive for, but one of the nicknames for it is DMAA, and they did this whole investigation, and it turns out that he took some over-the-counter stuff that contained the banned substance, the DMMA, and because of that, they're letting him continue. I just find it strange that the WBC and all sanctioning bodies pick and choose who to enforce rules with and who not to. I mean, the way they presented it with Alexander Povetkin was that, he ended up losing the big fight with Deontay Wilder and subsequently has to fight another fight in order to earn a shot at Deontay Wilder. And, oh, by the way, the WBC is fining Stavern $75,000 of his purse, but they're still letting him fight. What's your quick thoughts on that?
That's just it. You said it. If you're going to do one thing, you got to do it across the board. You can't be choosing, picking, and doing this for one fighter and not for the other. If you guys are so adamant about making rules and regulations, you can't be ones to pick who you want to implement the moves and penalize for substance abuse or so at any level. And they got to also clarify that. If they find something in an over-the-counter that has a substance that's banned, well, maybe they should have a clarification of that. If it's legal, it's over-the-counter. Let's see what the real effects are of this. So I think they got to really revisit this whole thing with the drugs and medication. Yeah, I don't believe in sports enhancements other than if it's natural, if it's an amino acid, if it's a vitamin, if it's something else, that your body does utilize or so, or even produces. Look at that. I mean, there's plenty. You go to GNC, they have plenty of ergogenic aids and things like that you could utilize. But how many might be under the radar of what the drug enforcement rules allow, or how many might just come above radar? So, I think they really need to revisit all these things.
You're not supportive of sports enhancement, but what about boob enhancement? Do you support boobie enhancement?
No, hey, easy. No, I don't. Actually, I don't. I like a natural.
Oh, you like a natural boob. You like
Yes.
the feel and texture of an actual boob versus an enhanced
Absolutely.
one. Yeah, I mean,
Yes.
you got
But,
okay, yeah.
Listen,
Hey,
right now,
maybe we'll
let me
talk
tell
about
you
that.
right now.
Well, maybe we'll talk about that on another show. You got the
No.
boob enhancement. You got the little knobbers.
Hey, I'm telling you though, with this drug enhancements and all these other things, they got to get really right on the same page, because you can't penalize one fighter and not the other.
This is true. Hey, Sal, thanks for stopping by, man. And I'll talk to you a little bit later, and we'll have you here tomorrow, my man.
All right, my man. You take care. You have a great day, and I will talk to you later.
Hey,
Take care.
stay away from those enhanced boobies, will you?
We're talking about sports and
Okay.
that's the program.
I'm stuck on a couple of other things. I'll talk to you later.
See you later.
All
Bye-bye.
right, ciao. Get it? A couple of other things. Come on, you guys. Come on, move it along here. We'll be back in 2.
The Billy C. Morning Show will be right back.
Hey, fight fans, check out KOFantasyBoxing.com. KO Fantasy Boxing is boxing's only trademarked fantasy game. Check it out, www.KOFantasyBoxing.com. Select your own gym, your own fighters, track them through a season that can last from 3 months to a year, depending upon which league you join. You got to check this out, man. www.KOFantasyBoxing.com. Join it today. Again, www.KOFantasyBoxing.com, and tell them Billy C sent ya.
Now let's dig into our archives and hear a rare interview when Billy C. first became the champion of boxing talk radio. Hello, Billy C. As the new champ, can we ask you a few questions?
Why, certainly.
Okay, your fans would like to know how you and your corner have successfully walloped the competition.
We're not ordinary people. We're morons.
Anything else?
I'm a victim of circumstance.
Did your success finally come when you made the show 5 days a week for 2 hours? What do you think?
I'm trying to think, but nothing happens.
Now, please tell the listeners what you've learned from making it this far.
Certainly. If at first you don't succeed, keep on sucking till you do succeed.
Great words of wisdom, Billy C. Keep up the great work as the undisputed People's Champion with your show, Talkin' Boxing with Billy C. Any last words to anyone who's listening?
This is your fault, you bonehead.
Check out BillyCBoxing.com now, or feel the wrath of the mighty mustache.
Oh, that hurts. Why are you doing that to my face? I hate you. I hate you.
That's BillyCBoxing.com. Consider this your warning.
Now back to the Billy C. Morning Show. Interact with the show at BillyCBoxing.com.
And we're back. You're listening to the Billy C. Morning Show. Glad you guys could be with us today. And, of course, we're glad to be sharing your morning with you. So, hey, don't forget, if you're interested in a new, I don't know if it's a fantasy game or it's like, those fantasy leagues. But anyway, it's called Fanfire. And basically, it's for all sports, and you can play things like, hey, is it fourth down? Are they going to kick the field goal? They're going to go for it. And you can win money. You don't have to invest anything if you sign in under the banner that's on BillyCBoxing.com. Go check it out and find out what I'm talking about, www.BillyCBoxing.com, and click on the Fanfire banner, which is on the left-hand side. Doesn't cost you a nickel, but you can make a few nickels in return. See what I'm talking about? Joining us right now, Boxing Hall of Famer in New Jersey, boxing commissioner, my man Larry Hazard. What's up, Larry?
Hey, good morning, Billy. How you doing?
I could be doing better, man. I'm complaining today because, I'm waiting to get this package. It's a hard drive, and I check online this morning, and it says, it's delivered, was left at your door, and I'm like, it's not delivered. It's not at my door. What are you talking about? So you call them. You know, they got the, and I'm gonna mention it, FedEx, right? You know what they're telling me? Oh, did you look around the yard? Did you look in the property? Did you go to your neighbor's house? You go, well, it's supposed to be delivered to me. What do I got to search the world for it for? I mean, Jesus, I would have went and got it myself. What's going on with this customer service crap in this world, right?
Well, it shows you how much. It just shows you how much things have changed.
Jeez.
But the check's still in the mail, right?
Yeah. That's another thing. It's funny. I put a check in the mailbox, and it's already cleared, right? When somebody sends me a check, it takes weeks for it to clear. It's like, what's going on? My check, I can't even. As soon as I write it, it's deducted out of my account. When somebody sends me a check, they never clear. The funds are on hold. What? It's not like it's from European bank. It's from the local bank. Why you got it on hold for a month? Crazy stuff, man.
I don't know, Billy.
It's crazy, but I'll tell you what was crazy. Luis Ortiz against Malik Scott. I mean, here's this guy, and he's supposed to, many people think he's the best heavyweight, right? Many people believe he's the best heavyweight in the division, and he gets in there with Malik Scott, and we all knew that Malik Scott's game plan was to survive. All he wanted to do was survive, and Ortiz couldn't make anything happen. People are all pissed off about it. I wanted to get your thoughts because, in my opinion, everybody's blaming Malik Scott for not fighting, but the truth of the matter is isn't it up to the fighter to make a fight his fight? In other words, instead of Luis Ortiz chasing him around like a dog all day long, he should have cut the ring off and maybe tried to press the action. What do you think of the fight?
Well, I don't know, Billy. I'm struggling. I'm struggling with my opinion of that fight because I've had some discussions too, and I've had pros and cons on both sides. Okay, now, here's the big question. I mean, I do believe that Ortiz is one of the premier heavyweights. I put him up there, at least in that group with Joshua Wilder and, in that group, the elite heavyweights. Okay? But, I mean, is it really fair? Is it really fair to hold him accountable for what the other guy does as long as he wins? I mean, it was obvious. We talked about it last week when you asked me about Malik Scott, okay? And I just came short of saying, really, are they serious? Okay? Because I expected him to go in and just, dispose of Malik Scott right away. So we knew what the game plan was for Scott going in. And he ran throughout the fight. As a matter of fact, he was looking for a place to lay down. I think that he was actually looking for an opportunity to go down and not get up. But Ortiz didn't really accommodate him with the type of punch that he could have, done that. A few times, there were a few knockdowns there that was so. I think he helped, okay? But, I mean, Ortiz should have just dispatched him. But I don't know. We can only hold a fighter accountable for winning, okay? And he did that. He chased this guy. How do you cut him off? I mean, it seemed like he trained to survive. He didn't train to fight. And he did a good job doing. His training was a success, Malik Scott. He survived. And so, there's the argument that Ortiz should have knocked him out. He should have done, how can you be accountable for making the other guy, fight when you're only accountable for fighting yourself? So, my feelings are really mixed on that, Billy. I want to be fair about it.
Malik Scott had a great opportunity to get himself in the mix, and I agree with you. I think, and I think you make a great point. And it was obvious. I honestly didn't look at it that way, but I think you're right. I think that he trained to survive. He wasn't training to win the fight. He trained to survive. However, we look at a fighter like Triple G, and one of the things I admire the most about Triple G is his ring generalship. Something that everybody's always, what exactly is it? And when you watch a Triple G fight, he displays ring generalship. When he fought Willie Monroe Jr., you can make the argument that Willie Monroe knew that he had to survive, and he tried to employ tactics in order to do so. But the difference between Triple G and Luis Ortiz was that Triple G forced a fight. He cut the ring off, and he made Willie Monroe fight the fight that Triple G wanted him to fight. That's where my criticism of Luis Ortiz is. Here's a well-decorated amateur fighter who's been around the block. I actually had the luxury of calling a couple of his fights when he first came here in the States. And the thing is he failed, and I don't know. I think if you're going to be that guy at that level, you need to know how to cut the ring off, right?
Well, that's true. And that's one of the factors that keeps me kind of, spinning on that opinion. But I will say about Willie Monroe and Triple G is that Monroe was willing to engage. Okay? Malik Scott, the word engagement was nowhere in his vocabulary against this guy. So therein does lie a little bit of a difference. When Triple G would cut the ring off from Monroe, who I think is a decent fighter, he did to have the heart to engage, and he didn't come into the fight to run. Okay, I don't think his modus operandi was not the same as Malik Scott. It was obvious during the warm-up. I mean, when he came into the ring, what his motives were. And I'm sitting there, I'm saying, this guy did not come to fight. You're going to see that in just a minute. You know what I mean?
Yep.
So therein does lie a little bit of a difference. But I don't differ in my opinion much from what you're saying.
The other fight, which we saw on Spike TV, was the Danny Garcia and Samuel Vargas fight. To me, I was very disappointed. I've been critical and supportive of the PBC at different times, and when I'm supportive, it's when I'm watching fights like Keith Thurman against Sean Porter, or Leo Santa Cruz against Carl Frampton, and you've seen all these exciting fights. But when I tuned in on Saturday, and I saw Danny Garcia, which didn't surprise me because I knew that this was going to be a very one-sided, non-competitive fight, which it was. And I see Danny Garcia, actually regressing, and I don't see him giving Thurman much of a fight. But what really bothered me wasn't so much that fight and the inability of Samuel Vargas to defend himself or anything else. It was the Jarrett Hurd fight against JoJo Dan, which really bothered me, Larry. And the reason why is, first of all, I give JoJo Dan all the credit in the world for even taking the fight. It was clear and very obvious just by watching the fight that JoJo Dan was at least 2 weight classes below Jarrett Hurd. But what bothered me the most was the fact that Jarrett Hurd knew damn well that JoJo Dan could not hurt him. He knew he couldn't hurt him. Physically, he couldn't hurt him. But rather than go and put on a performance where he stops the guy and looks good and pounds his chest, he fought cautiously. He fought cautiously till JoJo Dan's corner said stop the fight. And to me, it just says to me, hey, this is how boxing is now. Fighters don't want to take a chance. They don't want to get hit no matter what, whether they're going to get hurt or not. And to me, it was very unfortunate. What was your thoughts on the Garcia fight and the Hurd fight?
I was saying the same thing. Why don't you just go on and finish this guy off?
Right.
He's moving around there like he's got to figure something out. You know what I mean? And he's doing nothing but discrediting himself as a fighter. And I couldn't agree with you more on that. And then, for the other guy's corner to want to stop the fight, I mean, that's your job to stop the fight. Make this guy quit. Make him stop the fight.
Yeah.
So I think he didn't do himself. He really didn't do himself any great honors in the way that he fought in that fight. And
then you got Danny Garcia, whose father, you see now, again, this is a negative for the sport. His father, which we all know is a big mouth, right? Angel Garcia is starting to, he was commenting about fighting Terrence Crawford. Somebody brought up Danny Garcia should fight Terrence Crawford, whatever. And he starts with the money crap. Well, we get $2 million. We get $2 million just to fight an opponent. What kind of money you make? And again, it's like the same stuff that I criticized Floyd Mayweather for. Now it's being carried over, and you're hearing it from guys like this, bragging about the money they make for fighting a non-competitive fight. I mean, that's what's happening, Larry, and it's. I think it's unfair to the sport, and it's totally unfair to those young fighters that don't have the connections, that working their butts off in the gym, and they're not getting the opportunities. I think the handful of fighters that are in the positions that they are in terms of, making big money for not producing what we want is killing it.
I couldn't agree with you more. Garcia, as a matter of fact, that was the fight. That was a fight that was supposed to be in New Jersey at Boardwalk Hall, but Garcia wanted to go to Pennsylvania with it, which you can't argue with that. But, it's almost like bring your own opponent. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And to me, the fight wasn't really that competitive. To me, it was a step down. And also, I still haven't gotten over the fight with Garcia when he went to Puerto Rico.
Yeah, Mauricio Herrera, he lost that fight.
Yeah, I thought he lost that fight. And now he's, selling wolf tickets out there to Thurman, who, in my opinion, doesn't play around. And I can't wait to see him against Thurman. Not that he maybe he performs to the level of the competition. I don't know. I hope that's the case. And then if that's true, we'll be in for a real terrific fight.
Well, Danny Garcia is no Sean Porter. and we saw Thurman.
No.
You know what I mean? I mean, let's be real. You know, Keith Thurman. Yeah, I think Keith Thurman is going to have an easy fight against Danny Garcia. I really do. Danny Garcia doesn't move enough, and Keith Thurman's too strong. And I think Danny's going to try to, trade with him. And I think Keith Thurman's boxing ability and his power and his chin, he's displayed that. The kid, listen, I don't like what he's become in terms of, pounding his chest. He's a pound-for-pound fighter and all of this. But give credit where credit's due. He's a talented young fighter. He's got a solid chin. And I don't see Danny Garcia, I don't see him doing much against Keith Thurman.
No, well, you know what's happening? Here's what I do a lot, Billy. These elite fighters, somehow, well, just boxers in general, somewhere along the way, the concept has gotten lost that, you want to fight fighters that are going to bring out your talents. You go get these run-of-the-mill guys just to get a win, then your skills begin to erode.
Right.
You need fighters. No longer do I see, the elite fighters calling out the best guys, so that it could bring out the best in them. And it is what it is, and I think that's where we're losing a lot, and that's where this chest pounding and how much money I make and all of this. I think that's where all of this other nonsense comes into it, because they go in, get these easy paydays, okay, but what they don't understand is that their skills are really eroding, and that they're not doing themselves of justice, because the fans are not seeing the best of their talents when they fight these lesser fighters.
Exactly.
Because there is a tendency, Billy, for all fighters at some point to fight at the level of the competition.
Exactly.
Regardless of how good you are.
Listen,
what I mean?
Of course, because look, we talk about it all the time. It's the same thing. If you take a football team or a baseball team or a basketball team, and you take the best team and they play the worst team every single game and they go undefeated, are they really the best team? And the truth of the matter is I'm not going to blame all of this on the fighter, because I think their management and promoters are so afraid. Yeah, they're so afraid to put them in tough that they don't even give them a chance to get better by putting them in with lesser opposition. We've seen it many times where you see a young prospect become a contender, and then all of a sudden they fight their first real fight, they lose, and everyone says, he was exposed. But I don't know. You're right. And if we didn't have this love affair for the we would see better fighters. I know people don't understand it, but a loss in a lot of cases makes a fighter better, because they learn from the mistakes that they made in the loss, and they improve. When they're fighting opposition that is less than stellar and they win all the time, they're not getting better. It just, it's elementary stuff. But anyway, I wanted to get your opinion on a couple things real quick. You know how time flies. The WBC. Now, I know it's hard to follow, but I'll try and summarize it real quick. The WBC criticized Alexander Povetkin because he tested positive for something. All right, I forget what it was, but he tested positive for something, ultimately canceling his world title shot against Deontay Wilder. In the months that followed, they found out that they made an error, and that he indeed was okay to fight. And in response, they decided, rather than give him an immediate shot against Deontay Wilder like he was already scheduled for, they decide to put him in against Berman Stavern, which I still don't understand why, because Stavern hasn't done anything, but that's another story. It was reported the other day that on November 4th, Berman Stavern tested positive for a banned substance on the list, aka DMA, which after a thorough investigation by the Barney Fife crew at the WBC, they determined that Berman Stavern took it by accident because it was included in an over-the-counter supplement he took. And they basically said, it's okay. Even though you tested positive, you can still fight Alexander Povetkin, and by the way, we're going to fine you $75,000. What's your thoughts on them kind of bending their rules a little bit. On one hand, they go balls to the wall, so to speak, and destroy a fighter's opportunity to fight for a world title, and then make him fight another fight. And this guy, they automatically just give a pass to. How can they do that?
Well, I mean, that's an easy one. I mean, what's good for the goose is good for the gander. I mean, you start bending, and isn't that par for the course with who you know, who you're with, okay, and how much green is showing, all right? And that's basically what it is when it comes to these types of situations, dealing with the sanctioning organizations and the other entities in the sport of boxing. And once again, it does nothing but help to betray the trust of the public in our sport. If you have rules and regulations, the rules and regulations should be consistent across the board for everybody. This guy tested positive for a banned substance, but he took it by accident, so it's okay. The other guy, okay, well, we found out we made a mistake, but instead he's got to fight, he's got to do this instead of this. I mean, how can you expect anyone to have respect for your organization or for you or for the process? Okay, forget about the organization, the process, if you're not consistent in how you apply the procedures and the rules and regulations. That's all I can say about that.
I just want to know, are there people out there, I mean, do they really think, and not just the WBC, because all of the sanctioning bodies try this crap, do they really think that they're fooling anybody? I mean, just like you said, it's who was involved. How much are you going to put in this hand for me to change the rule with the other hand? I mean, we all see it, and you're right, Larry. I mean, that's why boxing has the proverbial black eye, because all of this stuff, they basically have the corruption that they dangle right out in front of the public. And it's like, yeah, we're corrupt, so what? That's their attitude, and it's terrible. No others. Hey, listen, I'm sure every other sport has a level of corruption, but at least they try to hide it.
Yeah, well, because boxing is historically what it is, okay, and it won't change in our lifetime, I can tell you that, if it'll ever change. But because it is what it is and what it has been historically, okay, it just continues to go on, and it's just done in a more polished way. It's no different than it was, decades ago. It's just done differently, until something changes, until that changes, the sport, we'll be talking about this until the cows come home, man. I'm telling you.
I know. All right, well, here's the $1 million question. I know you hate to answer these, but I got to ask you anyway. Sergey Kovalev against Andre Ward this weekend. It's been an anticipated fight. I mean, we've wanted to see this fight for a while. We sat through the preliminary 2 fights each for them to lead to this showdown. I couldn't help but, notice that Andre Ward and some of the video footage and photos of their arrivals yesterday in Vegas, that he seems confident, very confident, overconfident, as a matter of fact, in a different snooty way. Like, I always thought that Evander Holyfield looked very confident walking down the aisle to fight Mike Tyson, but I felt different. When I looked at his face, I said, oh, man, he looks like he knows something that the rest of us don't, and he went on and put on this performance. Andre Ward seems like he's already, won the fight. Sergey Kovalev seems like he's ready to take care of business. I'm looking forward to this fight, Larry. How do you see it going?
Well, I can say this is a pay-per-view that I really, really don't mind shoving the money out for a change. And just to hit on what you said about Evander, when he walked down the aisle with that look on his face against Mike Tyson, he did know something that none of us knew. He knew that he could beat Mike because he had done so many times in training. So he had a real reason to have that look on his face. But Andre, it's good that he seems to be very confident. But I really have mixed mixed feelings about this fight because I really think that Kovalev is a fighter who I haven't seen a fighter in many years who seems to be tailor-made for a division like Kovalev is for this light heavyweight division. You know, he's got the size, he's got the length, you know, he's got the physical, he's got the body structure. You know, he just seems like he fits so comfortably into this division. And he's got the mentality. He feels that he owns that division. He's very confident. Certainly, Andre, I think, is an outstanding fighter. Very talented, you know, very skillful. But I'm looking at what has happened over a period of time with the managerial problems, with the injuries, with the layoff, with the caliber of fighters that he's fought up to this point versus Kovalev, who just seems like there's been a little bit more stability in his career thus far. So it's going to be a tough fight for Andre. It's going to be tough for Kovalev, but it's going to be very interesting. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think it's going to be an outstanding fight. Well, it certainly has the potential to be a very, very good fight. And we'll just have to wait and see who wins this.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm looking forward to it. I think it's a great matchup. And I think, honestly, the pressure is on Kovalev. I think, and the reason why, the reason why I think the pressure's on him is because we all know what Ward's going to do. Ward's not going to stand toe-to-toe with Kovalev. If he does,
Nope.
it's going to end quick. So Ward's going to try to outbox him and move, and the burden is going to fall, just like we were talking earlier about the Luis Ortiz and a Malik Scott fight. The burden is going to fall on Kovalev. Can Kovalev cut the ring off? Can he stop Andre Ward's movement? Can he make the fight the way he wants to, similar to the way the Triple G can? You know, and if he does, he wins the fight. If he can't, he loses the fight. I mean, it's that simple. I don't see Kovalev winning a decision. I see him having to win by a stoppage, and I think he's got the tools to do it. And I am openly predicting Kovalev to come out on top in this fight, Larry.
Well, he's going to have to cut the ring off. He's going to have to make Andre engage into his type of fight. And I also, you know, I love to observe corners. Okay. I want to see now where the instructions come from and the type of instructions, because this is a tactical challenge for both corners. So we're going to see which trainer is going to really earn his payday, you know, come Saturday night. But I agree with you there. Ring generalship is going to be a very important element here because the landscape, the geography of that ring is going to have to be taken over very quickly by Kovalev if he's going to be in for a pleasant night. So I agree with you there.
Larry, I appreciate your time, my man, and we'll look forward to next week, brother.
Okay, Billy. I'll see you then.
Enjoy the fight.
You too.
All right, man. Thanks. That's Boxing Hall of Famer and New Jersey Boxing Commissioner Larry Hazard. And Larry's segment's always great, right? Hey, listen, I'm going to take a short break. We'll come back with the blast from the past. Tommy Hitman Hearns coming up next.
The Billy C. Morning Show will be right back.
Join us here for 2 hours as Billy and the gang do what they do best.
Every time I start talking about boxing, a white man got to pull Rocky Marciano out their ass. Rocky Marciano was good, but compared to Joe Louis, Rocky Marciano ain't.
Hit Joe Louis's ass.
Joe Louis was 75 years old when he fought.
Huh? What?
We're supposed to be talking boxing.
It's Talking Boxing with Billy C.
Hey, fight fans, check out KOFantasyBoxing.com. KO Fantasy Boxing is boxing's only trademarked fantasy game. Check it out, www.KOFantasyBoxing.com. Select your own gym, your own fighters, track them through a season that can last from 3 months to a year, depending upon which league you join. You got to check this out, man. www.kofantasyboxing.com. Join it today. Again, www.kofantasyboxing.com, and tell them Billy C sent ya.
Check out BillyCBoxing.com now, or feel the wrath of the mighty mustache.
Oh, that hurts. Why are you doing that to my face? I hate you.
That's BillyCBoxing.com. Consider this your warning.
Now back to the Billy C Morning Show, part of the Billy C Boxing Network. Interact with the show at BillyCBoxing.com.
And we're back. You're listening to the Billy C Morning Show. Hey, you want to watch us on Fight TV on your handheld? It's easy, man. All you got to do is go to fight.tv. That's FITE.TV/Billy C. Download the app. It's for free. And enjoy watching the Billy C Morning Show, the Talking Boxing with Billy C show, and the Billy C Post-Fight Show, which, don't forget, we are doing a Kovalev Ward post-fight show on Saturday night as soon as the fight is over. Tune it in right here on BillyCBoxing.com, our YouTube channel, which is youtube.com/talkin, TALKIN boxing, BOXING, or on the Fight TV channel for the post-fight show. Make sure you tune in. We go live approximately 6 minutes after the conclusion of the fight. So be there or be square. Oh, that really shows how old I am. I better jump to this.
Blast from the past. We shine the spotlight again on fighters from years past.
Top-ranking heavyweight. Joe Louis is the leading contender.
Joe Frazier with a left hook. Good right hand thrown by Foreman that time.
Look at that left hook. Belt that goes to Ray Mancini.
It's Blast from the Past on Talkin' Boxing.
And this week's Blast from the Past, which is being sponsored by KOFantasyBoxing.com. Check it out, www.KOFantasyBoxing.com. And the Title Bout Championship computer game. Download a copy right now by visiting our website, www.BillyCBoxing.com, and click the Title Bout banner, which is on the left-hand side. Features one of my favorite fighters of all time. And he's actually not been out of the game that long, I guess, in respect to a lot of other fighters we do blasts on. Today's blast is on Tommy the Hitman Hearns. And joining me right now to tell us all about the Hitman is the Hitman, Alex Perpali. What's up, man?
Good morning, Billy C. How are you?
I don't know. I'm pissed off about FedEx, but that's another story. You know, they delivered a package to the wrong place. Now I got to go searching for it? What's up with that? You know, it's only in America. Only in America does that happen. You know, it's the driver. Throw it out the window. Let them get it. It's not my problem. I'm in a union. You know, but anyway, that's another show. We'll discuss unions on the other show. But Tommy the Hitman Hearns, man, tell us about this guy.
Yeah, Thomas Hearns, one of the greats of the '80s, the famous quartet of titans of the '80s. Thomas Hearns, Sugar Ray Leonard, Roberto Duran, and Marvelous Marvin Hagler. Definitely one of the greats from what was considered by many the last great era or golden age of boxing, which we didn't know when we were in it, but looking back now, it sure looks like it. Thomas Hearns was born October 18th, 1958. He is 6'1", and has a crazy 78-inch reach. He a real narrow waist, like I think it was a 30-inch waist, and long, spindly legs, which he had great balance, but it was always a wonder where that power came from, because he has incredible power in his right hand, but not really big muscular legs like a lot of big power punchers.
Chicken
I'm getting
legs.
a terrible echo. Are you getting an echo on this or no?
No. But
Okay,
I mean, if you want, you can call back if you want. But I tell you, chicken legs is an understatement for him, huh?
Yeah, he did have long legs, long, spindly legs. He met up with Emanuel Stewart. Well, he actually he was born in Memphis, Tennessee, and his family moved to Detroit at 6 years old. He started boxing at 9 because he might have been the tallest kid, but he was the skinniest, and he wanted to be able to defend himself, so he started boxing. He was really a good kid. I mean, unlike a lot of boxers who had a lot of mischief and maybe some crime that they were involved in their youth, I really don't see any of that at all from Thomas Hearns. He was really on the straight and narrow, and he met Emanuel Stewart in 1974 when he was about 15 years old, still an amateur. And Emanuel Stewart thought he would become welterweight champion, middleweight champion, and 175-pound champion. He saw greatness in the kid, and he got him to bet down on his punches and use more leverage. I guess when he was first an amateur, he only had 12 knockouts out of 165 fights. And those knockouts came much, after meeting Emanuel Stewart and learning to deliver that power. But definitely, I would say a boxer puncher is a good description of his style because he could box, behind that long jab. But you couldn't convince people like Pepino Cuevas or Roberto Duran that he was a boxer. He was more like a destroyer in fights with them. So he was a boxer, but a guy who could sure deliver a wallop.
You say he was a good kid, and I'm not going to dispute that, but let me tell you, he had one of the meanest looks, did he? When he did his stare down, I remember just some of the shots of him that were captured on film, and snapshots or video of like stare downs and looks that he would give and coming out of the corner, before a fight. I mean, he had that look that you didn't want to piss him off, and skinny legs or not, he was a mean guy. And you mentioned Pepino Cuevas, and in 1980 that was his first world title. He won the WBA welterweight title, stopping him in 2 rounds. And really, when you look at that fight, Alex, from 1980 all the way up, really until his last fight with Iran Barkley, even though he fought some quality fighters like Nate Miller after that and Uriah Grant, really that was the beginning of his stellar career, because if you start looking at the names, and everybody always associates, of course, the Sugar Ray Leonard fights, the first one, being stopped in the 14th round, but all of the other names, I mean, it's amazing when you start looking at Wilfred Benitez, Duran, like you mentioned, James Schuler, of course, the Hagler fight, which I thought was the best 3 rounds in boxing, Mark McDowell, Doug DeWitt, Dennis Andres, Juan Domingo Roldan, which was a big-time name, even though it was at the end of his career, James Kitchen, Michael Adjale, Virgil Hill. I mean, really, are there any fighters today that even come close to the resume that he had? I mean, even Sugar Ray Leonard didn't have the names on his resume as notable as Tommy Hearns.
Yeah, he definitely fought everybody, as you said.
I know, he did, and some memorable fights, huh?
Absolutely. I mean, the knockout of Pepino Cuevas is one of the most famous. In terms when you watch like people get if you watch a clip of a bunch of knockouts, very often you'll see that one, because the first right hand that he nails Cuevas with sends this sort of shockwave through the body of Cuevas, and he sort of hangs there in midair, and his whole body, this wave of, he sort of is staggered in place, and then Hearns steps in and nails him with another right hand and puts him flat on his face. It's quite a knockout. And the same thing with the knockout of Roberto Duran, where he really he knew he would be able to beat Duran badly, and that was a fight where Emanuel Stewart liked being able to go after have a tall guy go after a smaller guy, a shorter guy, and the way he would do that is have them be really physical with the shorter fighter, and once they, if the shorter fighter tried to come in on him, just step back, get a little distance, get your punching range, and keep the pressure on him. Emanuel Stewart, of course, did it famously again when Lennox Lewis fought Mike Tyson and really beat up Mike Tyson. But if you want to watch a tall, skinny guy destroy a shorter fighter, that fight with Roberto Duran is just a demolition of Duran, which of course no one had done at that time. That was and no one really destroyed Duran in the same way. I'm not sure anyone even ever stopped Duran in the same way as Thomas Hearns.
Yeah, but that was a different Duran. I mean, he was, but it's strange how Roberto Duran, Tommy Hearns beat Roberto Duran very viciously, and yet Roberto Duran beat Tommy Hearns' kryptonite in Iran the Blade Barkley, which is pretty strange. I mean, Barkley was a monster, and he bettered Tommy Hearns not once but twice.
Yeah, I mean that's Tommy Hearns is a good, and also the four titans of the '80s. There's just like with Ali, Norton, Frazier, and Foreman. There's the adage of styles make fights. You can prove it by comparing their careers and how they did against each other. You see, Leonard has an incredible brawl in Montreal with Duran, then defeats him in the No Mas fight. Hearns fights him, destroys him, but Leonard beats Hearns. Hagler goes 15 tough, decisive rounds with Duran. Hearns destroys him. So it is, and then of course Iran Barkley defeats Hearns, which was not, and beats him twice, which sure seems to have Thomas Hearns' number. Just one of those things where sometimes just because fighter A beat fighter B doesn't mean he's going to beat fighter C. Styles make fights, and so you never know exactly what you're going to get. But one of the things I was seeing that there's an interview with it's a Box Nation interview with Emanuel Stewart and Tommy Hearns, and they talk about that was one thing that Emanuel Stewart really prized highly was sparring. And before the fight with Duran, Tommy Hearns had incredible sparring. He had sparred with Mark Breland, Mike McCallum, and Frank Tate in training camp. So he really was very sharp for that fight, and they weren't surprised that he handled Duran the way they did.
Everybody, the two big fights or fighters that he faced in his career, and like I said, he fought everybody. I mean, I mentioned all the names, but the ones that seem to stick out and are always on everybody's lips are, of course, the Sugar Ray Leonard and Marvin Hagler fights. Everyone should know the story that Tommy Hearns and Sugar Ray Leonard had an opportunity to face each other early in their careers when they were both on the rise, but both Angelo Dundee and Manny Stewart said, hey, we got two, future stars here. Let's be a little patient and wait, because they'll both make more money and it will be more significant down the road. And that down the road took place in September of 1981 when each of them had a belt and they fought for a unification fight in Vegas at Caesar's Palace, which I wish they had more fights back at Caesar's Palace. I used to love watching the fights at Caesar's Palace, especially when they had that outdoor arena set up, which isn't there anymore. But anyway, he was dominating that fight, Alex, in 1981. He was outboxing Sugar Ray Leonard, and this is when they still fought 15-round fights. And in all intent and purposes, would have won the fight on a 15-round decision should he had not tried to go in for the kill. And his legs failed him that night because Sugar Ray Leonard rocked him a bit and ended up with the W. Tell us about the fight.
Yeah, that fight was an amazing, that was a true super fight for the welterweight title. Leonard was I think he was the WBC champ, and Tommy was the WBA champion. Right. And it was 1981's Fight of the Year. If any boxing fans haven't never seen it, do yourself a favor and get on YouTube right now and watch it. It's an incredible fight. It's really two of the best gunslingers at 147 pounds, and probably two of the best fighters in the world at the time, kind of like what we have up ahead of us this weekend. It's a true super fight, and it looked like it. Now, one of the things that was interesting about it was Tommy Hearns was probably overtrained. He had been running twice a day rather than just one time, and Emanuel Stewart said that the morning of the fight, he woke up, and usually for fights at welterweight, he would wake up around 150 pounds. He would do some light jogging and a little bit of calisthenics, and then would make weight right at 147. That morning, he came in at 145, the morning of the fight. So he was really, just overtrained. And by the time of the stoppage, when you look at the stoppage, some people would argue might look like it was too quick because, but Leonard is really battering him. And the thing was that Tommy Hearns had absolutely nothing left. Emanuel Stewart still thinks of that fight. Well, now I'm sure he's passed away now, but in the interview that I was watching, he thought of that as one of the biggest pains in his life. That loss was just a heartbreaking loss because, like you said, Hearns was outboxing him, but Sugar Ray Leonard rallied, and it was just a bruising fight. Of course, that's the fight that very likely caused the detached retina in Sugar Ray Leonard's eye. But despite adversity, Leonard came back and stopped him in the 14th. And it is one of those fights that when you talk about the difference between 12-round fights and 15-round fights, had it been a 12-round fight, we'd be talking about Tommy Hearns as beating Sugar Ray Leonard. And that was the thing that they did. Like you said, they had sort of known of each other, even from the amateurs. There was when Tommy Hearns lost in the Olympic trials in Miami to Aaron Pryor, Angelo Dundee was there, and he told Emanuel Stewart he was most impressed with the 16-year-old Hearns in the tournament there, even though he had lost. And what was interesting was that Sugar Ray Leonard had actually worked out and trained and sparred at the Kronk Gym, as he was coming up. So they knew of each other, and that idea they had sparred at one point, and Tommy Hearns outboxed him. So the idea that, like you said, these guys were gunning for each other, and when they finally met, it was spectacular.
That fight I look at as a major turning point in Tommy Hearns' career, Alex, and not just because he suffered his first loss, and not because of the ramifications, which we still talk about today with that fight, woulda, coulda, shoulda, was leading, all the things you mentioned. But from that fight on, after that fight, it seems that a lot of pressure was lifted off of Tommy Hearns in terms of maintaining welterweight status and everything else. And if you really dissect his career from that point on, that's when he started, moving up and accomplishing the things that he went on to accomplish. All the different titles in the different weight classes, et cetera, et cetera. And although he fought a lot of big names, like I mentioned before, the next fight really, and in my opinion, the best 3 rounds of boxing I've ever witnessed live, and I don't mean live ringside, I was watching it on closed circuit like a lot of people did, was the Marvin Hagler fight. And if there is anyone that's a boxing fan or a self-proclaimed boxing fan that never watched this fight, You got to watch it. Alex says to go watch the Pino Cuevas fight now. Well, watch this one right after it, because the Hagler Tommy Hearns fight was in my opinion the best 3 rounds. I have never witnessed live or even footage of something as brutal as that was for those 3 rounds. What were your thoughts on that fight, Alex?
Yeah, the first round of Hagler Hearns is probably the most savage round in boxing ever fought. It's incredible. They just tore into each other. That was one of the things that, I mean, there's some interesting stuff that's come out about that fight now, years later, that at the time, just the class of Tommy Hearns and Emmanuel Stewart, they didn't want to make any excuses whatsoever, and they had every right to, because bad luck seemed to haunt them in that fight. One of the things that had happened was, of course, it was, even though Hearns was considered such a big power puncher, Hagler, with the pressure style that he had, the strategy was that Hearns was going to try to outbox him. Well, the problem was that a little bit, that morning of the fight, Emmanuel Stewart went down into the hotel to do some errands, and then when he came back up to the room, there was just an enormous amount of people, all well-wishers in the room with Tommy Hearns, hanging out before the fight, watching TV and stuff, and 2 of his friends were massaging Hearns' legs, giving him this deep muscle massage of his legs. Well, Emmanuel Stewart threw everyone out, and one of the co-trainers was like, "Oh boy, what did we just do?" Because they knew that with a deep muscle massage, you need to recover from that. It actually stretches out all your muscles and makes it so that your legs are kind of rubbery. Well, he was going to need those legs very much against Marvelous Marvin. Well, they knew they didn't have much, and of course, with the way that Hagler, they didn't have much in terms of time because of the soreness of his legs. And Tommy Hearns, even in the dressing room, complained to Emmanuel Stewart that, boy, my legs feel, kind of spongy. And so, when Hagler just comes across that ring and rips into him, it becomes a street fight, and Tommy was not able to start boxing. The other thing that went horribly wrong for Thomas Hearns, and you can see it in the fight, it's probably one of the hardest punches that Hagler's ever hit with. Hearns crashes a right hand against Hagler's dome, and he shattered his fist in that first round. So here you are against one of the most fearsome middleweights on earth with one broken hand and no legs. So Hearns made the best of it, and we as fans ended up with 8.5 minutes of the most beautiful, savage boxing that there could arguably has ever been. But Tommy Hearns, of course, ended up on his back.
The other thing, which I always admired, was that they, like you mentioned, they never complained about the broken hand or the legs. For years later, it came out. Years later, not the following week, not the Manny Pacquiao. My shoulder, I fought. Not years later, which shows that despite losing the fight, they did not want to take anything away from Marvin Hagler. The other thing that happened in that fight, which was very unusual, was Marvin Hagler got cut on the top of his head from that punch. And that cut was a serious cut because the blood was in his face, which actually prompted Marvin to be more vicious, if you can imagine that, in that fight. And to Tommy Hearns' credit, he hung in there until the beginning of the end happened in the third. But, what a great fight. And, talk about game plans. They were both thrown out of the window at the sound of that bell, because even Hagler, being an aggressive, come at you and kill you type of a fighter, I'm sure he wasn't planning on doing that with Tommy Hearns for the whole fight, and it ended up, being that way until the fight ended.
Yeah, absolutely, and you're right. I mean, that was one of the things. They went to the post-fight press conference. They kind of wrapped the hand, but they took a couple of painkillers so that no one would notice, and they flew back to Detroit that night, and he had he didn't even go to the hospital in Las Vegas because he didn't want word to get out that the fist was broken. So he didn't go to the hospital to have it set till he got back to Detroit. The way Hearns looked at it was the audience was there for a great show, and I gave all I had. It's about pleasing the people who paid big money to see me. So it just this level of class that we don't always see today. Like you mentioned, the Pacquiao Mayweather fight. Of course, as soon as the dust settles, you got people complaining about well, it wasn't 100%. Where for one of the greatest fights ever, Hearns could have very easily said, "Hey, I wasn't 100%," but he didn't. He chose not to. That was the kind of guy he was.
Well, I always love when a fighter says, "I don't want to make any excuses, but." Yeah, and then here comes the but, and it's like, oh God, here comes the excuse. You don't want to make any excuses. You pull a Tommy Hearns. You don't even bring it up. And incidentally, the part you left out about him going all the way back to Detroit to have his hand set. It was 2 days later. They had to basically break the hand again, because the bone starts to heal itself very quickly, So they basically had to break his hand again and reset it, So, I give Tommy Hearns a lot of credit. Plus, it was an era in which there was a lot of quality fighters, but the big difference between that era and why we look at it as one of the last great eras of boxing is because all these fighters fought each other. When you look at the resumes of all of them, you see each other's names on the resumes. They did not duck each other. They fought each other. And there were, a lot of titles around back then too. But, to collect all the titles was more of the prize than to collect one and discredit all the others. Well, it was like what they do today. And, you talk about the fights leading up to it. I mean, when you look at this guy's resume, how many Samuel Vargas type opponents do you find on this guy's resume in between the big fights? And I challenge you to look, because there's not that many. When I was looking through and I see his fight with Wilfredo Benitez in 1982, look at all the other names all the way up through the Hagler fight and all the way, and I mean, he wins the light heavyweight title from Virgil Hill. I mean, that whole era from 82 through 1991 were all top fighters of the time, and I don't think we'll ever see that again, Alex.
Right, and I think the other thing that's interesting is it's the timing of the fights. A lot of them happened when both combatants were in bloom. It wasn't like one guy had been on the shelf for years and was faded, and they finally saw each other and got a chance to fight, or that they're both weathered and their best days are behind them and they're finally fought. I mean, you could argue that their best days were definitely behind them when Leonard and Hearns fought the rematch, but of course they had the first fight when they were both in their prime. When Hagler and Hearns fought, they were arguably the best fighters on earth in their respective, Hearns having moved up from junior middle and destroyed, junior middleweights to moving up to face Hagler. I mean, they were two of the best fighters at the time. So it wasn't like one guy had faded, or like where you had with Pacquiao Mayweather, where both guys were not as sharp as they had been when the matchup first got discussed.
Yeah.
I don't know if you want to take a break or not. I'm sorry.
No. We're as everyone's used to, when Alex is on, he controls. We don't do a break. So, message to all the affiliates: we are not taking a break, as you could tell, because we were supposed to a minute ago. But no. But you're right. And that's an important part of this. And this is why this era is looked upon as the last great era, because they did fight when the fights meant something. You know, you get two fighters that are moving up, and you know they have a clash, a crossroads. You know, we got to meet this guy. Let's not, you know, the marination process wasn't as bad. It was show me in the ring. Now who's the next big name you're going to beat? You know. Now with that said, you know, and I guess maybe, you know, when you mention, you bring up the Mayweather Pacquiao fight, you know, listen, I too am like the masses. I wanted that fight 5 years earlier. However, we have to keep in mind that both fighters aged, even though Floyd had less wear and tear on him because of his style, they both were the same age. It wasn't like Floyd was fighting a 70-year-old guy and he was 30, you know, so I mean, you know, I do think that there's some, you know, validity to them fighting when they're at the same age, a la the rematch with Tommy Hearns and Sugar Ray Leonard. Yes, they were both past their prime, but equally past their prime, you know. And
right, yeah, I think that's a good comparison. Is that the Mayweather Pacquiao? They're both like somewhat faded, but you could argue that they were equivalently faded.
Right. And that's
like Hearns and Leonard in their rematch.
Exactly. And that's why I say, you know, when I start reading, and I know I'm jumping off of Tommy Hearns here, but when I start reading from fans today, oh, Pacquiao should fight this one and that one and this one, you know, and you say to yourself, well, you know, realistically, he's 38 years old. You know, the only logical fight for him is against Floyd Mayweather, you know, and likewise for Floyd. You know, I would love to see Floyd fight Triple G or Errol Spence or Keith Thurman or someone that's, you know, an up-and-coming young fighter. But he's not going to, because he's in the same boat. Let's be real. You know, he's not the same Mayweather. Pacquiao's not the same Pacquiao. And when Sugar Ray Leonard and Tommy Hearns fought the second time, they weren't the same. But Tommy Hearns still accomplished a lot when his best days were behind him, like moving up from obviously he went from welterweight to junior middleweight to the middleweight fight with Hagler. He eventually won a world middleweight title. He went beyond that, fought and won a world super middleweight title, a light heavyweight title, and if you want to put some value in the IBO, he also won a world cruiserweight title, which is amazing. When you think of the size difference, yes, his body could handle it at 6'1", but his legs never grew. I remember looking at him kind of freakish at the end of his career because that upper body was so big, and he still had that little waist and those chicken legs, man. And you know, I love Tommy Hearns. He was one of my favorites, and to see that he fought from 1977 when he turned pro, and really all the way up to 2000. Non-stop, consistently, and then he did have a almost 5-year layoff before he came back and ended his career with 2 more wins to close it out officially in 2006.
Yeah, and I just wanted to mention that his win over Juan Domingo Roldan, that's one of my favorite fights. That is just such a fun back-and-forth fight. It's very competitive, and the broadcast is really great because you've got Tim Ryan, Gil Clancy, and Marvelous Marvin Hagler doing the commentary for it. You can find it on YouTube, and it's a great knockout. And Roldan has his moments. Really, just one of my favorite fights. I remember watching that early when I was only a boxing fan for about two years when I saw that fight, and it's still one of my favorites. It's just a great. The moment when Roldan is counted out and Hearns just sort of like shakes his fist at the canvas and then puts both his arms straight up in the air. I'll always remember that. It's just a great moment.
You know, didn't Roldan give Hagler a run for his money too?
Yeah, he's the only one who was credited with a knockdown of Marvin Hagler. Although when you watch it, it does look kind of like a brush down, but he does.
It didn't work too well after Hagler hit the canvas in that fight, did it?
Yeah, I think Hagler ends up stopping him in 10 rounds. I think.
Yeah, but I mean, he was like, it wasn't a knockdown. He's going, and then he stops him, but Anyway, Tommy Hearns went on to have obviously a Hall of Fame career, and he's still involved in the sport, isn't he? Is he still doing promotion and stuff?
I don't know if he is still. He did have a brief acting career. He played fighters on TV in a Martin episode and in a Who's the Boss episode, and he beats up Martin Lawrence in the Martin episode, and he beats up Tony Danza in the Who's the Boss episode. He does have a pretty extensive website, and it does look like you could book him for corporate events. He could talk to your staff or whatever. I'm sure that must be pretty great and inspiring to hear some of his stories.
You know what? Not to interrupt you, but one of my favorite Ring magazine covers was before the Sugar Ray Leonard fight. He and Tommy Hearns were best dressed as like gangsters with the machine guns and stuff. That was a cool cover, right?
Yeah, that was cool. And that's something interesting about that nickname. During his career, he had the nickname the Hitman, and the other nickname was the Motor City Cobra. Well, the city of Detroit, actual city officials at the time, Detroit was the murder capital of the country. So the city officials were like, one of the most popular athletes from the place was actually named Hitman, nicknamed Hitman. City officials asked them to try to tone it down and try not to use that nickname too much. So they kind of were using Motor City Cobra more often, but it was too late. The nickname had stuck, and Hitman seems to be the more popular. Myself, I've always loved Motor City Cobra. I'm a big fan of snakes, and I think that just the way those really long strikes from Hearns, they resemble strikes from a big predatory serpent. So I always liked the Motor City Cobra nickname, but I thought that was interesting that the city was kind of like, hey, can you tone it down a little bit?
I like the Hitman. I always, when I refer to Thomas Hearns, I always refer to him as Tommy the Hitman Hearns. I loved it. But anyway, Title Bout Championship computer game. How did my man do?
Well, because he had won titles in so many different weight classes, I put him in against quite a few fighters, and here's how he did. First, at 147 pounds, I put him in against Manny Pacquiao. The first time they fought, Pac-Man wins a unanimous decision over 12 rounds, scores of 115-109, 117-107, and 118-106. Hearns was actually dropped in the 8th, the 10th, and twice in the 11th. When they fight 100 times, Hearns gets the better of Pacquiao. Hearns goes 54 victories, 43 defeats, and 3 draws with 24 knockouts. Pacquiao scored 26 knockouts in his 43 wins. Also at 147 pounds, I had to have him fight Mayweather too. The first time they fight, Mayweather wins a unanimous decision, 3 scores of 115-112. When they fight 100 times, Hearns gets the better of Mayweather, 52 victories, 43 defeats, 5 draws. Hearns scored 29 knockouts. Floyd, in his 43 wins, he scored 18 KOs. Then, what the hell, I had him fight Canelo Alvarez at 154 pounds. The first time they fight, Alvarez wins by TKO at 2:57 of round number 12. Hearns was down in the 10th and twice in the 12th. When they fight 100 times, Hearns gets the better of Cinnamon, 69 victories, 29 defeats, 2 draws. He scored 39 KOs. Canelo scored 15 KOs in his 29 wins. At middleweight, I had him fight Gennady Golovkin. The first time they fight, Gennady Golovkin wins by KO at 2:57 of round number 8. Hearns was down in the 5th and twice in the 8th. When they fight 100 times, Golovkin gets the better of Hearns. Hearns goes 44 wins, 54 defeats, 2 draws, 40 knockouts. Triple G scored 47 KOs in his 54 wins. At 168 pounds, I had him fight Andre Ward. The first time they fought, Hearns wins by TKO at 2:21 of round number 8. But when they fight 100 times, Ward dominates. Hearns ends up winning 18, losing 78, 4 draws. He scored 10 knockouts in his 18 wins. Ward scored 58 KOs. And then I had him fight the Crusher at 175 pounds against Sergey Kovalev. The first time they fight, Hearns wins by unanimous decision, 2 scores of 117-11 and 1 score of 117-112. When they fight 100 times, Hearns dominates. Well, it was kind of close, though. 57 victories, 40 defeats, 3 draws, 35 big wins by KO, and Crusher Kovalev scored 35 knockouts as well in his 40 wins.
Interesting. You know, I'm trying to picture what a Tommy Hearns versus Manny Pacquiao would have looked like from a you know a fan's view from watching it. I mean, the height disparity. What's Pacquiao, 5'5", 5'6"?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think Pacquiao has ever fought someone that tall. I think Margarito might be the tallest guy he ever fought. So it would look weird.
Yeah, Margarito's what, 5'10"?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, you know, so and Hearns just looked taller than he was. You know, even when you think 6'1", yeah, I say, oh, he was only 6'1". I mean, he seems so much bigger all the time. But interesting stuff with how he seemed to have lost the first one on most of these guys, you know, and then come back to win. But I don't think that he would have had any trouble with any of those fighters except for maybe Triple G and Kovalev, only because of the punching power and his suspect chin. But Mayweather, Pacquiao, Alvarez, all would have been easy win, not easy, but wins for Tommy Hearns. But anyway, great job, Alex, as usual. Tommy the Hitman Hearns, or Thomas the Modi City Cobra Hearns, former world welterweight, junior middleweight, super middleweight, light heavyweight, and cruiserweight world champion. He was inducted, rightfully so, into the International Boxing Hall of Fame in 2012. Tommy Hearns had a career record, 61 wins, 48 coming by knockout. He lost 5 times, in which he was stopped 4 times. He had 1 draw, which was against Sugar Ray Leonard in the rematch, and he had a knockout ratio of 72%. Tommy Hearns, one of my faves. Alex, great job as usual. Quick couple of questions for you. Your man, Luis Ortiz, what happened, mate? What happened? You know, I mean, geez.
Is that fight still on?
I think the last guy, they just finally woke up. I know that, and got him out of the arena. But what happened to our guy?
Dreadful. That was dreadful. Yeah, you got to give him, hold him responsible as much as Malik Scott didn't want to fight. Ortiz deserves a lot of criticism for not being able to do anything to get him out of there.
I agree. I agree with that. I you know, everybody blaming Malik Scott. A lot of the blame has to go to Ortiz not controlling it.
Right, and also you had to figure the kind of fighter that Malik Scott is. That was the way he was going to show up. So they should have been ready for that. That he was going to do everything he could to try to survive, and you know, score punches, you know, right before the break, or you know, sort of give him a sort of like a screwball, knuckleball kind of fight. That you know, they shouldn't have been surprised. I really don't think that you know, he could have fought any other way. It was a stinker. Really not what the heavyweight division needed. I do think that Ortiz is one of the most talented heavyweights out there today. A lot of that has to do with his amateur pedigree, but that was absolutely dreadful. He didn't do anything to help himself get future fights. I don't think anybody would want to see him again. Neither one of them did. It was really unfortunate. In a way, I forget if it was Max or somebody mentioned that maybe it being on in the afternoon was a good thing, because it seemed a little bit, I don't know, it was almost okay that it was so dreadful that it was on in the afternoon rather than like a prime time sort of event.
Well, was it on in the afternoon where they were fighting?
No, true.
And I do believe that Ortiz needs to take some of the blame for not being able to show ring savvy, generalship. Something that I'm always giving credit to Triple G for doing. And something that is a good segue for me to ask you for the upcoming big fight this weekend, Sergey Kovalev against Andre Ward. I think it's going to boil down to the simple fact: can Sergey Kovalev control the ring and prevent Andre Ward from pulling a Floyd Mayweather, where he runs a little bit and tries to pick his shots and get out of harm's way? I mean, to me, that's the game plan for Andre Ward. I can't see it being anything else. Sal mentioned earlier that if Andre Ward comes out and tries to go toe to toe, I just can't see Andre Ward trying to do that with Kovalev, even though he does seem to think he's got punching power all the time lately. But what's your thoughts? How's the fight going to go, and who's going to win?
I think this is going to be I think it's a great matchup, and I hope it'll be an exciting fight. I'm a little hesitant. I have a feeling that it could be a little less than thrilling, especially if Andre Ward dominates, because he does, he's a big counterpuncher, and I think that that could lead to a less than entertaining fight. However, he's in there against a guy who throws lots of punches, lots of mean, pressuring punches. So I think the ingredients are there for it to be good. I did put them into the title bout championship boxing game to see what how things would go. The first time they fought, Ward won Kovalev won a split decision. There was one card, 116, 113 for Ward, and two cards of 115, 113 for Kovalev. When they fight 100 times, get this, Billy C., 49 wins for Kovalev, 48 for Ward, 3 draws, 19 KOs for Kovalev. So it tells you that the computer is pretty evenly split, 49 to 48, with 3 draws. That's a pretty close matchup. I don't know. I think I see Ward trying to. I think that if it starts aggressively. I think in some ways that could hurt Kovalev, because Ward is so good as a counterpuncher. He kind of wants you to attack him. So it's going to be interesting to see how Kovalev deals with that, if he starts getting caught on his way in. I look for an exciting fight. I'm very curious as to see what that first round will be like, if it's a cautious first round or if it's if it's an attacking, vicious first round. I like Kovalev, but if Kovalev hesitates, I think that could be a big mistake for him. I think the way to beat guys like a Ward, a counterpuncher type guy, is with volume. So you got to be aggressive, but that means throwing caution to the wind to some degree. And I don't know. I think Kovalev is the kind of guy who will do that. He's not gonna. You're not gonna have to look to for him to make the fight. I think he's going to be willing to lead, and I think that could be the key to victory.
Good point. Because if the first round, I hope we don't get a feel-out round or two. I really don't. I would love to see it start off Tommy Hearns, Marvin Hagler-esque, because that would be exciting. I don't think it's a smart way for Andre Ward to start, but you never know. He seems very confident in this fight, and I actually think the pressure is on Kovalev, and like you, I'm looking forward to this fight. I'm really glad that the computer game has it pretty much split. So we'll be looking to hear from you on the post-fight, because we'll be doing a live post-fight show as soon as the fight is over. So you got to make sure you call in and give us your thoughts, my man.
Oh, absolutely, I will. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. And I'm also looking forward to seeing Clarissa Shields. But I think the rest of that undercard is not too good.
It's not too bad. I mean, you got Maurice Hooker against Darlis Perez. I think that's going to be a good one. Curtis Stevens against James De La Rosa. They may not have significance, but that ought to be an exciting fight anyway. and we'll see. I mean, who knows? Who knows? But the main event on that one is good. Hey, listen, the pay-per-view that Manny Pacquiao was just on really was probably the best in terms of significance for fights. So maybe Top Rank will help turn the corner here with the pay-per-views.
Yeah, and I think the Chilemba Bosdick fight could be interesting. I mean, a lot of these Russian fighters or Ukrainian fighters surprise us. So that could be
but Chilemba sometimes is a snoozer, but we'll see. Listen, I'm looking forward to the main event. I'll watch all the fights, of course, and we'll be doing a post-fight show. And make sure you're around because I want to get your thoughts.
Are you going south to Georgia, or are you doing it from home?
No, I'm doing it from the studio here.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, we'll be doing. We won't be doing a pre-fight. We'll just do the post-fight. So.
Oh, cool.
All right, my man.
I'll definitely call in.
We'll talk to you Saturday.
All right, Billy. See, take care.
All right, ciao. That's Alex Papali doing a blast from the past like he always does. Don't forget, make sure you get that pay-per-view on Saturday night. It's going to be a good one. Sergey Kovalev against Andre Ward for all the marbles, so to speak. Hey, listen, don't forget we're going to be doing a live show tomorrow, and I'll leave you with this. Make sure you tune in tomorrow morning, same bat time, same bat channel. Until then, ciao, baby.